Hello, and welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, and I look forward to bringing you amazing content each week that will provide you with a financial education. It will support you in your financial journey, and most of all, help you to find financial freedom. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Johnny Perez, a good friend and business partner of mine, to talk about how we work with members of the military and veterans to secure their and their family's financial future. Johnny Perez is a remarkable man built with fortitude and unwavering dedication. He emerges from Southern California into a life defined by service, leadership, and unwavering commitment to excellence. He was born and raised in a bustling household to his father, Juan, and mother, Veronica. Johnny's upbringing was steeped in the values of hard work, perseverance, and a deep sense of duty. At the young age of 17, Johnny embarked on a profound journey by enlisting in the United States Marine Corps, where he honed his skills as a low-altitude air defense gunner. Over the course of 4 impactful years from 2008 to 2012, Johnny's unwavering dedication and exceptional performance led to a distinguished record of service. His deployment to Helmand Province, Afghanistan, underscored his courage and commitment to protecting his country and fellow comrades. During his tenure in the Marine Corps, Johnny achieved numerous accolades and distinctions, including meritorious promotions, commendations, perfect score fitness awards, honor graduate from Corporal Corps, and prestigious medals such as the Presidential Unit Citation, Navy Unit Commendation, Combat Action Ribbon, and the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal. He held a brown belt in the Marine Corps Martial Arts program. His leadership abilities shone brightly as he held pivotal roles such as team leader, section leader, and platoon sergeant, showcasing his natural talent for inspiring and guiding others. Following his honorable discharge from the Marine Corps, Johnny embarked on a new chapter in the dynamic world of the restaurant industry, where he demonstrated his prowess in management while pursuing his education. His relentless pursuit of excellence led him to earn a bachelor's degree in business management from the University of Phoenix, setting the stage for his remarkable journey ahead. In 2015, Johnny found his true calling in the financial service industry, where he dedicated himself to empowering families through financial education and wealth strategies. Today, as the CEO of Veteran Resource Advocates and the leader of one of the largest teams in Vantage Financial Alliance, Johnny continues to impact lives with his passion for building leaders and serving others. He has an absolute passion for motivational speaking and life coaching. He's one of everybody's favorite speakers, and you'll hear it in just a minute. But beyond his professional accomplishments, Johnny's a devoted husband to his incredible wife, Summer, of 15 years, and a loving father to 3 beautiful daughters, one of which is also named Natalie. And his life story is a testament to the power of resilience, perseverance, and the unwavering commitment to making a difference in the life of others. Johnny Perez stands as a beacon of inspiration, embodying the values of service, leadership, and unwavering dedication in all facets of his remarkable journey. Johnny, thank you so much for being here with me today, and thank you very much for your service, brother.
Molly, I appreciate it. I am so excited. Like I told you before, when you had texted me, I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought you'd never ask. I am so incredibly grateful to be part of this show. I know the impact already you are having amongst our organization as a whole, but in the community and obviously in the world. When this first got released, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. So anyways, yes, thank you for having me, Natalie. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've talked before about how my son is a Marine. Automatically, when we connected and got to know each other, it was one of the first things that drew me to you, as well as your enthusiasm and excitement and love for what we do. I do want to point out, if you can see that, the listeners can't see it, but right there, that's my bachelor's degree from the University of Phoenix in business management, Johnny.
No big deal. Listen, I always like to consider it the Harvard online. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But
yeah,
yes, it was a great school. It's flexible all the time, and it worked. But yeah, I didn't know that, but now I know that. Go Fighting Phoenix. You know what
I
I mean?
know, right? I know. Explains we're two peas in a pod.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, I'm super excited to dig into the information today. I went into a lot of those accolades in your introduction because I think it matters. There is something very special about people who have served their country, whether you're in the same branch or others. One of the things I've seen from being a military mom, a Marine mom, is the camaraderie that exists. Now, you guys will give each other hell till the sun goes down, but you will be the first one to step in a way that I don't think most people can understand. And so I really wanted to touch on those things. I'm not used to speaking all those medals and awards. Clearly, you can see I tripped over myself a little bit, but I do think it matters. And I think in a short 4-year career, you accomplished a lot. Clearly, you made a difference for those you served with, as well as for your country. So I want to kind of start out with, let's talk a little bit about your transition to financial services. So I know you got out of the Marine Corps, you got into the restaurant industry. Talk a little bit about how'd you even come across financial services, and what was it that stood out to you to say, this is where I need to be?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, it may surprise you that I had absolutely no intention to be in the financial services arena. My math's not that great, right? Well, my spelling not even that better, or much better. Clearly, my grammar is as great as we want it to be, which is crazy because I love speaking, I love talking. But yeah, here's how it went down. I'll be honest with you. Growing up, my mom and dad, they did the best they could. Things were good, and they went through a divorce when I was 11, and then pretty much everything fell apart at that point. It was a big traumatic experience for all of us. I got 3 older sisters, 3 younger brothers. I've got 3 stepbrothers and a stepsister, so we're a big family. Long story short, because we didn't grow up with a lot, that didn't stop me from wanting a lot.
Yeah.
I remember, the neighborhood that I grew in wasn't the greatest neighborhood by any means. It was, San Bernardino. So people that are from San Bernardino, they know. I always say San Bernardino Hills to make it fancy, but it's not. But yeah, nonetheless, I would always be fascinated why and how people acquired the things that they had, and how they got to, even coming home and, as a young kid watching TV and seeing these families go on these vacations to Disney World and all this fancy stuff. And we never got to do that. So I was really fascinated with what makes that ability. How can we do that? What gives us the power to do something like that? So again, money and then how it worked, it always fascinated me, and I love making it in any way, shape, or form that I could. Whether it was selling candies or cards or other things that I wasn't too proud of, but nonetheless, it had to be done. So fast forward, getting out of the Marine Corps, first of all, I want to say that there wasn't a whole lot of financial education. There was really none while I was in service. So I didn't have a true grasp or understanding of how money actually worked. And that kind of surprised me and it shocked me because I was financially independent for the very first time in my entire life. And being as young as I was, I didn't have a whole lot of guidance on what to do. And I found out relatively quickly that the people in my circle, they didn't have any idea how money worked either. Now, don't get me wrong. There were, implementations of courses like personal finance for Marines. It's a MCI. It's a book that we had to do in order to promote. That's really why we did it. We did these books to promote because we wanted to get promoted to make more money. Vice versa. Obviously, the cycle continues, right? But when I transitioned out of the Marine Corps, I went into the restaurant industry, and now I was running a restaurant and learning how to manage their expenses, to manage their deal, and again, still having a misunderstanding of how to manage mine. I tried to do it the same way, but it really wasn't, didn't make a big difference for me and my family because, again, I didn't understand the core principles and the things you have to know with your own stuff. Long story short, um, I remember asking my teacher, my professor, going to college, what should I do with my money? And it was a very quick, hey, invest in a Roth IRA, right? And that was it. I didn't ask why. I didn't, go into details. And he was my finance professor at the time, and he didn't go into details. And I would think a question like that would ignite him to, want to have that conversation, but it never happened. Come to find out, a lot of these professors are just not taught how to handle and deal with families with building wealth and building those strategies that protect them against any kind of market loss, things of that nature. So here's how it went down. Crazy enough, I get a phone call from my mother, and I was out of the Marine Corps. Obviously, I was managing restaurants. Actually, I transitioned out to Arizona, so I just left the restaurant industry. I ended up getting another job, and I was working, doing my thing. But I get a phone call from my mom, and my mom says, "Hey, we're coming over." And I thought it was really weird because my mom really never calls me to come over; she just shows up. So the fact that she called me and told me she was coming over, I looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, my mom's coming over." And she's like, "Well, why'd she call?" I'm like, "I don't know, but she's coming over." So
Yeah.
I get a knock on my door, and assuming that it's my mom, which it was, I open the door and there's three people standing there: my mom, my stepdad, and a guy in a suit. Now, being from San Bernardino, California, anybody that shows up in a suit, you're either getting audited, you're getting sued, you're either going to get raided. I don't know what's going on, right? So I look at this guy and I said, "Who the hell are you?" And he looks at me and he says, "I'm Jesus." And I said, "Okay, first of all, right, I'm not super religious, but I know that Jesus ain't going to show up in a suit and nice shoes. He'll have like chanclas or sandals, right?" And he's like, "No, bad joke. My name's Jesus. Your mom wanted me to come talk to you about a few things." And in my brain right away, I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I'm a little weirded out. But yeah, I mean, you can come in and my mom says, "You're good, you're good." So we sit down, we have a conversation. And my mom must have told him I was a Marine because he started like drawing pictures and colors. And it was just the most colorful presentation I have ever
Did he,
had in my entire life. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what this is, but I'm in, right?
did he have crayons?
No, he didn't have crayons, but he did have markers, right? And he was drawing on the paper and all this stuff. So it was the next best thing. But at that very moment, it's kind of crazy because my first intention, and this is what everybody kind of faces, at least initially, we always think we're being sold something,
Yeah.
right? And my opinion of that obviously changed quickly. But I'm sitting on my chair, and I want you to imagine, my arms are crossed. I'm kind of upset, but I'm like, all right, whatever. Let's just hear what this is about. And he started asking me questions, very simple, basic questions that we should know in financial services. And he'd say, "Hey, do you know about the rule of 72? Do you know about index accounts? Do you know about how taxes work?" And I didn't want to let him know that he got me, but he got me. And I would say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I know what that is, but you can explain it." "Oh, yeah, yeah, I've heard of that, but you go ahead and explain it," without him letting him know again that he got me. At the end of the presentation, he stopped and he said, "Well, hey, I appreciate your time. Thanks for allowing me to come into your home. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can always reach out." And I was shocked. I was shocked because there wasn't a hard sale. There wasn't any convincing or anything like that. So I stopped him in his tracks. I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." I said, "Okay, first of all, you can't just show me this stuff and not tell me what it is."
Yeah.
So the first question I asked him is like, "Am I able to take advantage of this? Like, can I help me and my family?" And at the time, I had my wife and just my two daughters. And he says, "Yeah, I absolutely can help you. I can come back tomorrow if you'd like. Obviously, I'm in Arizona for the next couple of days, but I can come back tomorrow and we can see what those steps look like." I said, "Okay, great." And the second question that I asked is, and I say this and I laugh because I really wanted to do what he did because I was so impressed. I was so impacted by what he said. And then he was Hispanic just like me, right? So I'm like, man, how did this guy, like, he's all nice and well, the etiquette he used, everything was great. I was like, I just need to know. I said, "Hey, man, is this all you do? Like, do you do this full time?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Do you have to be smart to do this?" And yeah, he said, "No, you don't. You just got to go and pass a license, get a license for the state, and you're ready to rock and roll." I said, "Okay, how do I do what you do?" It's like, "Okay, here are the steps." And that was that was March 15th, 2015 is when I got in. Or no, I'm sorry, March 13th, 2015. And that moment, that day, forever, forever. I was 24 at the time. It forever changed my. No, I'm sorry, 25. It forever changed my life, forever. And
Yeah.
I'm so incredibly grateful for my mom, my stepdad for introducing me to him. Um, but man, I like thank God I wasn't so stubborn because I could have passed up an opportunity of a lifetime for both the product and the plans that I have for my family, right, and myself, but also this opportunity that I've been on the journey now for almost a decade.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, I mean, you talk about I didn't want to be sold anything. It takes me back to when I first came across this opportunity on Facebook. I saw an article that talked about the financial service industry being the fastest growing industry for female entrepreneurs. And I was in the process of looking for a new job. So I was looking to network more, meet some people. And I knew a lot of that was happening online in social media. And so I came across this and I reached out to the lady that posted it and I said, hey, well, it said, if you have any questions, if you want some more information, let me know. I'll connect you with my business partner. And so I reached out to the lady. I said, hey, I'd like some more information. She said, great, let me connect you. So she connects us. And my response was, he said, hey, nice to meet you. I'd love to take some time to talk to you. And I said, I'm interested in more information. So if you can send me something to look at, that'd be great. But if you try to sell me anything, I'm out. And he was smart. He sent me a website, sent me some follow-up information that could open my eyes a little bit more to the industry. And then obviously I wanted to know what it meant for me from a consumer perspective, but also a business opportunity. And the rest is history. But I appreciate you sharing that. I did one thing wrong here when we started. I told you I had an icebreaker question. I was so excited.
Yes, I was looking forward to it. I was ready. I was sweating over here waiting for it.
All right. So we're going to jump back between questions real quick and do the icebreaker. So
Okay.
here it goes. Johnny, if you could be any superhero, who would you be and why?
Oh man, that is a fantastic question. I've always been a big fan of Superman, but I'm going to change it up a little bit because after some serious thought and really giving it a deep consideration and factoring in it. But I literally have a Superman doll in my garage that was given to me by an employee of mine back in the restaurant industry because I mean, who doesn't love Superman? He's got
Right.
strength and flies, and this guy can just move at the speed of light. It's all crazy, right? But if I were to change it, my philosophy in life's kind of changed a bit. But I would probably say Batman, and I'll tell you why. Um, because he's not really seeking the recognition for all the good that he's doing in his life. I'm a big believer, and a mantra that I live by is I want to be a king and queen builder. I don't want to be the king, I don't want the attention. I want to be the king and queen builder where I can build those people to go out there and make that impact. And again, I'm not seeking the recognition. So yeah, I would say Batman simply because of the fact that he does so much good and nobody knows who it is. It
Yeah.
is a really powerful thing to me.
Yeah. I love that. That's a good answer. You're my first Batman. You're my first.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What other? Well, obviously I know, but for the viewers, if they're just tuning in, what other superheroes have you seen? Because you started doing this on episode 3, right? Episode 2 or 3?
3 or 4, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've had, I think, 2 Superman, a Darth Vader, actually.
Wow.
Wolverine.
Wow. Okay. I like that.
Crazy enough, every single time I ask this question, the answer I get makes perfect sense for the person I'm talking to. That's why I don't remember who suggested it as an opening question, but I'm so grateful they did because it really does. It really sets up, it matches the personality of the person I'm talking to and really sets up the conversation and what people can expect to hear. So
for sure. And here's what I'll say. The next superhero I was going to say was Nacho Libre. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I'm sure everyone can relate to Nacho Libre, man.
It's funny. Braxton told me about a month ago, hey, Mom, you guys should watch Nacho Libre with Nana and Papa.
No kidding.
Yeah. And he said it's rated like PG-13 or something. And I literally had never seen it. I couldn't believe I'd never seen it, but
That is unreal. That is unreal.
So we watched it with my parents, and I'm not sure they knew what to think of it. They chuckled a couple times, but I thought it was hilarious. So it's funny you bring that up.
Great movie. Great movie. One of my favorites for sure.
All right. So let's jump back in a little bit here. Tell me a little bit more about, I know why for all of us it's important to help families, individuals and families to create the financial future that they hope for, that they pray about, that they dream about, right? But why specifically? Because you and I have worked, and we'll get in a little bit more in the detail of the things that we've created together and the things we're working on that to provide services specifically for military members and their families as well as veterans. But why is it so important to you as a veteran to help your fellow military members and veterans and their families through what we do?
Yeah, that's a really really powerful question. It's kind of crazy just to take it back even further. Watching my mom and dad, and they worked really hard, and they were left behind. They weren't given the proper information, and that really impacted me because obviously they weren't able to pass any information over to us because they just didn't know. But specifically with the veteran community or the military community in general, again, it goes back to you've got young adults, young men and women that are out there fighting for our country that sign the dotted line. And I don't think people realize what that actually means. I mean, when you sign that dotted line, technically speaking, you are now government property. You don't really have a say so in the things that you want to do. And I mean, your freedoms are just based on what the government gives you. And I don't want to make it sound bad because it isn't, because there is a reason why we commit to that sacrifice. Obviously, you're a mother of a Marine, right? Braxton, I love that guy. And there's a bigger element, there's a bigger cause that we want to strive for. But
Yeah.
again, going back to men and women being financially independent for the very first times in their lives, and I can tell you 99.9% of the time they weren't financially educated. So here's what I saw. And it really, really killed me. I saw my friends, not getting paid very much by any means. They would go and finance a car that was worth $15,000, $10,000. They would go finance it at $30,000 or $40,000 at an interest rate that was just out of this world, 18, 19, 20% interest rates, right? Only to find out that this $10 or $15,000 car, that's what it was worth. Their payments are going to be $600, $700, $800 a month.
Mhm.
And they don't talk to them about insurance, the cost of insurance, especially because they're a young driver, right? So there's a lot of factors that are missed. And because of that, what I saw is my friends having super nice cars. That was one incident. Super nice cars not leaving the barracks parking lot. And the reason why they weren't able to leave the barracks parking lot is because they could not afford insurance on the car. Why? Because their entire paycheck went to their car. So that's one thing. The second thing is TSPs. TSPs are, a great alternative, a great way to save. One of the great ways to save, especially because, they match 5%. But nobody ever really starts or talks about a TSP or emphasizes the importance, usually not until your second or third enlistment. So we're talking 4 years goes by and then another possible 4 years. And then after that, they start getting serious about saving money. And you and I both know the power of compound interest. They could have been saving for 8 years, but instead they didn't. Right. So they scrambling now to put their money into a TSP, which by the way, if they don't look even further into that, more than likely it's going to land in the G fund, which is going to give you a 1 to 2% return, over the past 10, 20 years. It's nothing, but there are other funds that you can do. And then now knowing, if I knew what I knew back then at 24, if I were to go back in time, I would allocate 30%, 40% of my paycheck to an index account of some sort, right? Sure, I take advantage of the TSP, match it, whatever they're matching, just to diversify a little bit. But yeah, that was another thing that I saw. I also saw a lot of my friends go into debt, especially those who were married. They had a family. They had a reserve program that you can go into if you needed to borrow money. The fact that they had a program that you can go into to borrow money and not have a place where Marines, sailors, soldiers, airmen, Coast Guardians, right? That they don't have a place where they can go and get proper financial guidance really
Yeah.
blew my mind. And I feel like there was always, like, especially now, that's why I'm so passionate, just like you, about communicating this. Because listen, I don't care if you do, like, do I want you to build a plan? Do I want you to build wealth? Absolutely. But my job is not to convince you to do it. My job is to provide value and leave a positive impression and give you the opportunity to fight for yourself and for your family and for your life. Right. And if you see that there is a benefit to it, then you should absolutely 100% do it. But if not, that's okay too. At least you know the information, right?
Yeah.
At least you have the power in your hands to make that decision. So through all those occurrences, and I'll tell you this, I had to borrow money one time from a friend. I was a young family, me, my wife, and my daughter, and our paycheck was a little short. and I had to borrow $100. $100 is what I borrowed. And, back then, 2009, right? $100 to me was a lot of money. I was, 19 years old. And I remember the feeling of having to borrow from my friend, and it didn't feel good. It
Yeah.
didn't feel good. So at that point, it really drove like that what else factor, right? That what else. And after that, I mean, we did the great value brands, the off brands, and everything. I just didn't care. Like, I'm like, hey, we have to save. I bought my car when I bought it used. It was a 2002 Mazda 626. I bought it cash because I'm like, I don't want any payments. So all of those experiences really drove my passion and wanting to help the military community as well as the veteran community. Because again, even when they transition out, they're not being properly educated. They just don't know what to do. And I know we're going to hit on it later, but with the Frontline Force Solutions, I mean, that's a service that you created, that you provided, which I absolutely love and I'm a big fan of. But again, it was just the lack of knowledge and the lack of resources
Yeah.
that we had that we didn't have, I would say, that made it all go crazy for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Here's the thing too, you know, you said a lot of great things there, but I think one of the most important things you said is our entire purpose, the thing that drives us every single day that we get excited to get out of bed for and do is provide a financial education to people who never had a chance to get it. It's not about where that takes us. It takes us to products and to helping families, putting things in place for our clients, right? Obviously, we get paychecks, but we don't work for that paycheck. That paycheck is a result of providing the education that we do. And there are many families or individuals we sit down with that all we ever give them is that education. And I am so proud every single time I get the chance to do that because I know whether they move forward with me as a client or not, I've changed their life
Absolutely.
because they can't unhear the things we talk about when we share information with them. So I love that you touched on that specifically. So next thing, let's jump into Frontline Force Solutions. You know, I had the opportunity with a company I was affiliated with before to see some things put in place and a program put in place to help military members. And that landed hard with me for a couple of reasons. One, my son was active duty Marine Corps at the time. Number two, I volunteer every Friday at an adaptive gym, helping the majority of the athletes in there are former military members who have suffered some kind of significant injury during their service, and they're learning how to adapt physically and adapt mentally to all that comes along with that. And some of them have been living in that place for years. Some of them have experienced what they've gone through recently. But seeing them and knowing that, well, honestly, what really punched me in the face with it was about a year ago. I sat down with one of the gals there that I got to know, and I couldn't help her because of the injuries that she experienced from her service. It disqualified her for life insurance and the products that we work with. It's not to say that I can't help her overall, but I couldn't help her with that most immediate need. And I was mad. I was mad. I thought, how can these young men and women sign the dotted line, like you said? And you mentioned when you sign that dotted line, you become property of the government. The other thing you do when you sign that dotted line is say, I will lay it down at a moment's notice without question. And I get a little emotional with that. I didn't think I would, but I get a little emotional with that to think y'all sign up to give everything if that is what is asked of you, if that is what is required. And then because of what you might experience, which is out of your control most times, you now can't get the things to protect yourself and your family in the future. And that really hit home for me. And about that time is when I saw this program and what it was doing. And so I wanted to make sure that through Vantage, we continued to help the military members and their families, the veterans that we come across the best that we can. And so I sat down with you, I sat down with my son, and we put together Frontline Force Solutions, which helps active duty military members make sure that they're setting up for a couple of reasons. One, the younger you start, the more you can do. And number two, you never know what's going to happen that could create a circumstance that you can't do it in the future. And just to know you have that set up, it's one less thing to worry about when you are separating or retiring at some point in the future. And so we kind of talked through what needs are there. And then when it comes to veterans, how can we support them and help them? So I want to ask you, if you don't mind, going a little bit into what that process of separating from the military looks like and why having a program like this makes so much sense to maybe fill in the gaps or based on what is and isn't present in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I get into that, I think it's important for people to understand why I support and why I partnered with you in that space. They say, there's nothing more dangerous than a Marine and his rifle, but I think that's a little out of context when you involve a mother who loves her son, especially who served in the Marine Corps. And I always have my point being with it is the connection that you have with Braxton, and even communicating the troubles and struggles that he had when he transitioned, and how you were talking to me about that. And I mean, that struck because it's almost as if you were going through it yourself,
Yeah.
watching him go through that. So when you get that kind of passion, when you took that and you made it better, and you enhanced the program overall. But my favorite part too about the program specifically is how you didn't just try to capture everything on the back end. You have spaces and spots in there that give and provide information prior to getting into the military, while you're in service, whether you make it a lifetime career or you're just doing your four and done, but also as you transition out. And I'll tell you, the Frontline Force Solutions is a platform, is a website and page that I highly, highly recommend, that gives you not only guidance, but the proper guidance, the right, correct, true guidance on what to expect as you transition out. And being in my service, as well as a lot of the other service members that we have that we're connected with, and being able to validate point by point, line by line, and the fact that it was built and constructed by your son, right? It really emphasizes the true understanding and meaning and the strong foundation that this platform has of taking care of our service members, and more importantly, being able to do it at no cost. Right? I mean, think about that for a second. That blows my mind. A lot of people are just trying to get in and get a buck, right? And most of the people who create these platforms, a lot of them aren't service connected by any means. So what it does, and going into the service is a very uncertain path. You know what job you're going to do, kind of a gist of what it's going to be like, but you don't really know what's going on until you go through it. I truly believe that separating is the same way, if not worse. What I mean by that is you serve and spend time, 4 years of your life, and these are prime years of your life, sacrificing and giving everything that you know to a career, to a path. And then when you transition out, that feeling of service, that feeling of making an impact in the world, that feeling of doing something for your country kind of fades away when you transition out, and you're in this dark path. You just don't know what to do, where to go. And what I truly believe is Frontline Force Solutions is that guiding light. It is that light at the end of the tunnel, that guiding, angel, if you will, to prepare you for what life has to offer. And I love it even more so because it isn't just financial services. Like, that is one avenue for sure, but a lot of connections, real true connections, are being made there through other veterans. And I love the fact that, again, most appointments, if not every appointment, is done with number one, a financial professional, but number two, a veteran is also on that call who is a financial professional as well, right? So that really seals the deal for me. And having access to that, again, gives you the proper guidance to prepare, right? The five P's, proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. It really just gives it that and answers those questions that a lot of us are kind of just not thinking about. And the one thing I will emphasize is if you are listening and you are about to get out, getting out is exciting, right? It is, you're back to your old life, but let's not forget about lining up your ducks in a row. Let's make sure that the things that we don't normally think about that you'd figure out later, let's make sure we figure that out now. It doesn't take very much to do it. But again, it really has impacted not only my life, but the lives of other service members that are in still or actually transitioning out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Number one, Braxton did build the website, which I'm incredibly proud of that he took a hands-on role in creating this. And like you said, I brought over what I knew and what I learned previously to make sure that as we continue to meet service members, their families, and veterans, we could help them. But we did take it to another level. And we did add that before you get in, while you're in, when you're getting ready to separate. And then, of course, retiring or even working with veterans who are already out. And they all have different nuances to them. The reason it was so important for me to get them when they're young, before they go in or quickly after, is, again, you don't know what's going to happen, but also that factor I mentioned before, the younger you start, the less expensive it is. And I learned that with my son. My son went into boot camp 6 months after I started my business. And so I was really learning everything that we can do and provide. And when he graduated from boot camp, I said, we're setting this up for you because I don't want to miss the opportunity to do so. I also knew my son multiple times told me, Mom, if the opportunity arises, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. And I knew that he didn't need to tell me that. I knew that about him. But to make sure those things are in place, because none of us wants to face the worst case scenario, but it's a reality, whether you're in the military or you're a civilian. But with a lot of what you guys face, that's a whole nother level, right? That's a whole nother reality. And so to be able to put that protection in place for him and realize how affordable it was at such a young age is what really took me to the point of I want to educate not just those going into the military or those who have recently joined, but their families, their parents, because they still have a big influence on them, right? And the opportunity to educate them as well. So that's a big part of where all that came from. I want to shift now, though, and talk about you have added something else. We talked about how you're the CEO in your bio, CEO of Veteran Resource Advocates. That's a whole other level of what we provide. And well, real quick before we jump into that, you did mention in our appointments, we do have a military member who's also a financial professional. And again, that's because what I talked about before, there's a very special camaraderie. There is a very special level of trust. And if because that trust exists, people get help who might not have otherwise, then it makes all the difference in the world. And so that's really important. And I know that's a part of Veteran Resource Advocates too. So take a couple minutes and share a little bit about what that program is and what it's helping veterans with.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of a funny story. Obviously, I've been in finance now for almost a decade, and I've always had this passion for helping veterans with their disability. A lot of veterans maybe don't file or have filed and gotten denied. There's a lot of factors that come into play, right? When it comes to that, a lot of veterans, are maybe either embarrassed to file, whatever. There's so many reasons why they don't or have, and it didn't work out. There's a lot going on. I remember having a conversation. I definitely give the credit to my brother-in-law. His name's Mario. But I give him on a phone call and I'm trying to guide him through and walk him through the steps. And he's like, you know what, man? He's like, dude, you're super passionate about finance. You're good at what you do. He's like, but your real passion is helping veterans with their disability. And he's like, man, if there was only a way you could figure out like how to start a business doing that. And when I was on the phone with him, I'm like, yeah, dude, I mean, I would love to do it. I just don't know how. I don't know what to do. I have no idea where to even start. But it is a great idea. But yeah, I am very passionate about it. About 90 seconds after I hang up with him, an idea pops in my brain. And I said, oh my goodness, I got it. I got it. So I get on the phone with a good friend of mine out in Alabama. Her and her law firm, they are top 10 in the nation when it comes to filing for disability for veterans. They also do some Social Security work, which is great. But I call her and I say, hey, Jennifer, I've got the greatest idea. Long story short, we have that conversation. She absolutely loves it. I mean, their law firm is phenomenal. They are just huge supporters of military personnel. They have family members, so just you can tell they have that deep South like care and love. I've never experienced anything like that until I spoke with them. I was in North Carolina for a while, so I got a little bit of it right, but this was like that true, real, like I could feel like this is the right move. Fast forward, we were at it, getting things taken care of, putting issues or orders in the right spot, working through all that. April 9th, 9th or the 7th, I have to remember, I have to look. I believe it's the 9th. I founded Veteran Resource Advocates. And what that does and what we do is we help veterans process and work through their disability claims that they're having issues with. I've already had a few success stories. I'm definitely looking forward to more. It's not officially launched yet. It's there. We're ready to go. So we're doing soft launches as we speak.
Okay.
But through the soft launches, I've had a ton of success stories already. One person I'll bring up, I won't say his name, but he's always, I remember him being so like, I don't want to say negative, but he's always like, he's always throwing stuff out there and how things could be worse, whatever. And I love the guy. He's a great guy. And he comes to me and he says, hey, uh, I don't know if you have any experience with this, with the disability, but I was wondering, I was seeking guidance basically. Long story short, got him into the system. The process was extremely smooth. He was at a 30%, if I'm not mistaken, which is a couple $100, $400 or $500, something like that with the family. Fast forward 5.5 months, I think is all it took. Obviously the times might, be different for everybody depending on what they are. But he's now at 90%, fighting for 100%. And what I'll tell you, the message that I got from him was I literally wanted to cry. Like I got daughters, so I could be emotional. So for those who are listening, yeah, I'm tough, but to an extent because I've got daughters. But the message that I got from him, and I looked up to him, and because he was senior to me, but the message that I got from him on how happy he was, where he didn't think that this was going to work, he didn't think he was going to get the results that he wanted, and thank God to Jennifer and Christine at the law firm that was able to process it and get things moving. The message that I received from him made all the difference for me. And at that moment, when it processed and it finalized, I said, "This is it. Like this has to be it." So, yeah, we have a soft launch. It'll be the website, the landing page it's still in development. It's almost done, but it'll be veteranresourceadvocates.com. So the VA disability is the main thing we're going to help with. But I've always been a big believer in being resourceful. Right. That's why we named it Veteran Resource Advocates, because, yeah, that is one avenue that we're going to take. I know we're going to have Frontline Force Solutions on that page as well to give, that financial guidance. I'm also working with some partners of mine with real estate, with VA loans and how to navigate that space. Because what I do not want is I do not want to have just a bunch of crap on that page just to get them. No, these processes, these systems are tried and true, right? And I want to become the staple of, hey, every base, every military service member is like, where did you go to do your VA disability? Hey, I went to Veteran Resource Advocates. They are the people, right? Yeah. And then through that with Frontline Force Solutions. But see, that's just where it starts. After that, and what we're going to do and what we're trying to accomplish, I mean, I'm wanting to build communities for homeless veterans. There's so many things and avenues that we can give back. I'm even talking about starting a school, a leadership academy for young ones, just so they understand, the importance of being a man in today's society, or being a strong woman in today's society, because a lot of the crap that's happening and a lot of the political stuff that's being pushed, down our throats, it's unreal. So again, that's just, I'm very, very excited about it. Um, I when it finally got finalized, I was in shock, and I kind of had to take a seat back for a little bit and just realize, like, holy smokes, it went from I don't know how to do it to throwing the idea out, and here we are. Now it's working. So I'm excited about it. Very, very excited.
Yeah, nice. So here's the cool thing about what you're putting together overall, not just veteran resource advocates, but what you're creating is a one-stop shop. And we already touched on the fact that we're pulling our business partners in who are veterans to be a part of all the work we do for
Yes.
military members and veterans because of that connection, that camaraderie, that almost automatic trust that exists because of a commitment that you guys made to your country. And I can never understand that at that same level. Now, I understand at a pretty high level because my son did that, like you said, right? And I have to say, you touched on Marine moms. I literally have a sign to my left that says the only thing stronger than a Marine is the mother that raised him. It's
Fact.
been
That
in
is a fact.
every
That,
office I've had since he joined. It's a completely different kind of strength, but I do have the advantage of understanding that, and I think all service moms can understand it at a different level when your child steps into that role, right? But because that exists, and to create that connection with somebody, but to know you can actually help them in all the avenues that touch their financial future, I think is remarkable that you're putting that together. I'm excited for Frontline Force Solutions to be a part of it. And I appreciate everything you put in to creating that, of course, and helping making sure that it spoke in the way that it should to the audience it was built for. You and Braxton tag teamed a lot on that, so I appreciate that input. So as we
and by the way, obviously we appreciate the guidance you gave us, because if it was up to me and Braxton, it'd be just pop up colors and pictures and, hey, come down here. To keep it simple for Marines. And then the airman gets on this thing. He's like, this thing looks like it was built by a 7-year-old. You know what I mean? So we definitely appreciate your professionalism and your feedback as well. With a few of our other partners, I know we had Ed Cross on there as well too. So I definitely want to give a shout out where give credit to where credit is due. So,
yeah,
but
no,
thank you for that. Yes.
I appreciate that. So as we kind of wind down the conversation today, I want to talk about something, and in several of my episodes, we touch on the business that we're in and why it's
Right.
important. And the reason why is just like in every appointment I have with a client, I share what we do and the opportunity. We share what we do and the opportunity of it, not from a perspective of maybe it makes sense for that person we're talking to, but there are so many people out there who are looking for a way to increase their income in the financial world as it is today, who are looking for an opportunity to create time freedom, which is what pulled me in here, time freedom, and who just needs something more, something different, whatever it is. And so I do want to touch on that in this episode from the perspective of why financial services seems to be a really phenomenal fit for veterans. What makes sense of it for you guys? What does it give you that maybe is familiar or was missing after you separated or retired? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And I'm going to divide it into two sections. The first section that I'm going to divide it into is the logical section. It made sense. It made sense. It made sense because, I've had a lot of mentors in my life, thankfully. And, I've built some relationships with a lot of very wealthy businessmen and women as well. And it's come down to really essentially three things, right? Why, if you're going to start a business, how do you know if it's going to be successful? How do you know it's going to work? These
Right.
three things that I took into consideration. Number one, is there a need for what we're doing? We're dealing in a country today where 78% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, they do not know what's happening with their money. So there is a huge need for what we're doing. Number two, your business has to be scalable. being in the restaurant industry, if I wanted to open up other restaurants or other buildings, it's going to take time, money, and energy, which I did not have, and I couldn't wait around for it, right? Because I had a family and I was going to school full time. So the fact that we can make this business scalable, what I mean by that is, friends, partners, family members who are looking to do something part time can get a license, right? And it's not one of those things where, oh, hey, you come in and we get paid to bring. No, listen, you're not doing, and nobody's getting paid until they're licensed and until they're serving, helping a family. But the fact that I can be in North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, North Carolina, Maine, whatever state, and have no restrictions, no territorial restrictions, makes all the difference in the world. And the fact that I don't have to leave my home doing it, right?
Right.
So scalability. Number three, which is the most important, is it has to be recession proof. What do I mean by that? When the economy is down, we can help families. We are in a position to where maybe they're losing money from their TSP or 401k or IRA, and they don't like losing money anymore. It's funny. I always ask the question, hey, how comfortable are you with risking the money that you have? And 99% of the time, they're like, that's a stupid question. I'm not comfortable at all. So I'm like, why are you doing it? Right. So we can protect and help when the economy is down, and also when the economy is up. When the economy is moving, imagine being able to put a family into a position where we completely eliminate risk and give them all the benefits. Right. And again, when I first started, I'm like, man, it sounds too good to be true. But after extensive research and after books that I've read and videos that I've watched, it's ridiculous and crazy how much information is out there, and people aren't taking advantage. So that's really the logical side, right? I wanted to be in a position where I had control of my time, control of my money, and more importantly, this was, a lot of people misunderstand this. This is something that can be done part time, very, very part time. And as a matter of fact, that's how I started. I had a full time job. And when I got home, I would spend an hour or two on this until I did enough to where I was able to transition full time. Right. But the second section that I want to talk about is more so the emotional side of it. I did it because when I left the Marine Corps, my sense of purpose and my sense of belonging and my sense of service was almost non-existent. I almost forgot who I was. I almost forgot what I was made of, and I almost forgot. I just fell on this deep, dark path of you know not knowing me anymore, and I went from job to job. I love service. I love working for people and in the service of people. I always tell people I'm in the people business. I just help them with their finances, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I almost didn't recognize who I was anymore. Like I said, it was a struggle. So when I got into this and I found this, it really forced me to work on me. And I was around people who had the same passions and desires and drives that I did. And I'll tell you, there's something to be recognized when a group of people have the same passion and drive and ambitions, and the force to be reckoned with when we move in one direction. So that was a big thing for me. The second thing was, I love my dad. I respect my dad and all that all that he did for me. He worked all the time. He wasn't home very often because he was providing. And I will always forever be grateful for that. But the one thing that I wish I could get back from him is his time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of that, and I know, and with your dad and what he's doing, God, it really hit home for me. And I remember when my first daughter was born and I was holding her, you know, I kind of made a promise to her, to myself, that, man, I'm going to take care of you no matter what, like what it takes. And a lot of people think that, and again, there's nothing wrong with the 9 to 5 by any means. However, I want to challenge the thinking. I want you to realize that 9 to 5, you're going to be doing that for the next 40 years. And that is time that is being taken from your family. A sacrifice is being made. Yeah. Is it easy? Yeah. Is it easy money? Is it an easy thing so you don't have to think about? Sure. But you know what you're also not thinking about? You're not thinking about where your kids are. You're not thinking about the impact that they're having on their lives from people that you don't know about. So I wanted to put myself in a position where my kids didn't have to know where I was at. My daughters, especially, because they're all girls. I tried for boys, but I got all girls, right? But I never wanted them to doubt or ever think twice that dad wasn't there. I go to all their games. I'm at all their events, right? Sometimes obviously I have to work and I have to move some things around, and no big deal. But what really hit me is during that COVID time, I was always home no matter what, right? Because I was always home. But my youngest, Natalie, which she loves you, by the way, because you guys have the same name. Um, but I remember when after COVID, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the office because sometimes it's good to get out of your space a little bit. And
Yeah.
she was so like taken back. She's like, the fact that I was away from home, she did not like. So when she's like, why are you going? And I'm like, man, like I've been in your life, all of your life. I've been around you, and that feeling right there, and just being able to serve and make an impact, and more importantly, offering an opportunity. Like the products are the products, and I love the products. They're fantastic. They do
Yeah.
everything they're supposed to do and more, right? But the number one product that we have, in my personal opinion, is our opportunity. Because if you can like lock in for 60, 90 days, 6 months, a year, you're going to commit to that anyways with your job. But if you could do it for yourself, the opportunities that come with that. I've had people that I've come and leaders that I've built in my organization that have maybe stayed temporarily, but then now they're off doing bigger and better things. I mean,
Yeah.
think about the impact that you can have in your community when you can convey that. And financial service may not be for everybody, but I truly believe getting a base understanding of what we can do, getting a license. I told my daughters when they're 18, they're all getting their licenses. Whether you do it or not that's entirely up to them, but they will know what to do and how to do it. But my point being is it creates freedom of time to do what you want when you want. And don't get me wrong, being an entrepreneur it's a journey, it's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a difficult journey because I've had a lot of self-discovery that I had to do. But
Right.
nonetheless, the freedom to make your own decisions and what that feels like is unbelievable. And to now be that person to change the trajectory of your entire family. They now see things differently. They can do it too because they see you doing it. And if there's anything I would like to leave behind for anybody's, man, even if it doesn't, God forbid, my life gets cut short somehow, some way, I'm not going to what it doesn't happen. I want to live to like 120, healthy 120, by the way.
Yeah.
But if that does happen, uh, I want them to realize that, man, like he wasn't afraid to go for it and to put it all on the line. So um, but that's what I'll say. Everybody, that value, that purpose, that meaning, and I really truly believe that you've never really experienced fulfillment until you have the ability to serve somebody else, especially when you're not getting anything out of it.
Yes. Ugh. I should hit stop right there. It's like
Listen, you got
we
great
do
questions. You fire me up. Oh,
we do
man.
pin drops. I just dropped my pen for you. No, I mean, that that's so important. Everything you touched on there. I'm not gonna try and elaborate on it because I think you said it perfectly. But I think something else you showed in talking about that, when you said, if God forbid something happens to you before age 120, you want them to know you weren't afraid to go for it. And Johnny, what you did right there is just confirmed what I said in your bio. And that is that you are woven as a man of service and a man of sacrifice to make a difference, not only for those closest to you, but every person that you have the opportunity to impact. It's why you joined the Marine Corps. And it is the passion that you work with every single day that I am honored to get to see and be a part of. So I'm so grateful again, Johnny. Thank you for joining me today. Any last thing you want to share before we completely wind this thing down?
Yeah, I think. Well, again, I appreciate you and the time that you take and have taken with me to get the message out there. I'm always looking forward to the next one because the impact that you're going to have, like I said, in our world and our community is going to be unmatched. Um, but yeah, the biggest thing I would say is always keep an open mind and an open heart. Adversity strikes when you're most vulnerable, and those are really signs of being able to recognize like, hey, I think a change is necessary. I think it's important to do something different and to be something different and to fight that feeling because growing up we all have big dreams and goals, and somewhere along the line that gets suppressed by the world saying what we can and cannot do. So whether it's with us or maybe you're contemplating starting your own business, I don't know, making mugs or whatever it is, make it happen. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. But specifically to the veteran community, um, connect, connect. Don't isolate yourself in your own little island. Communicate, connect with other service members. There's a lot of programs out there that are available to people, and then obviously emphasizing on the veteran resource advocates and what that's going to do uh, to help at least the financial area for the disability stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm so incredibly grateful for everything, for you, for the show, the relationships that we've built, the partnerships that we've already established, and I am looking forward to the future because it will be massive, and we're trying to take as many people as we can with us, which I know that to be a fact. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yes, like Johnny said, his site will be launching soon. But if you want to connect with him, you want more information about his program, about Frontline Force Solutions, you can contact the show from wherever you're listening from. There's a link in there where you can contact the show and reach out to me. You can always email me at natalie@nataliekimeconsulting.com. And follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Natalie McPhee Kime. I will get you in touch with who you need to. And I can promise you this, if you are a veteran that is struggling in an area where you need support, I know and have seen, not being a veteran, all that's available. And if you choose to reach out to this show, I will do everything I can to make sure you get plugged in where you need to, even outside of the services that we provide. So that being said, if you're a military member, please take time to look at your financial plan with a financial professional. It's important to plan beyond the military and ensure that you have all the financial tools in place to protect and grow your wealth. And if you're a veteran looking to fill any gaps in your financial plan, we recommend that you do the same. So if you're listening to this, you have a loved one who's in the military or is a veteran, please share this episode with them. The reason that I started this podcast is to get information out to the people that need it. And the military and veteran community definitely needs to know what's available to them to make sure they take and remain in control of their financial futures. So if you have any questions, Johnny and I would be happy to sit down and share some additional information with you and see if there's any areas that we can assist you with. But for now, thank you for joining me today on the Nickels and Dimes podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, and I look forward to continuing to bring you amazing content each week that will educate you, support you, and help you to find financial freedom. I look forward to having you listen again next week. And until then, take care and stay safe.